Yes, hello and welcome folks. It's Chris here from the Ministry of Dice, otherwise known online as the True Mr. 6, and I'm back today with another one of my little video presentation thingies. This one I'm placing under the Having a Brew series, although it does cross over a little bit into the now for something completely different. And what I'd like to talk to you guys about today is 5 things that I've been working on to become a better Dice Masters player. Now I'm going to hold my hands up readily. Some of these that I'm going to mention, that are steps I'm taking to try and improve my playing, are things that I've been working on for a while. If you're a regular listener to the podcast or you've seen me playing on any of our recorded gameplay videos, it would be fair to say you might be listening and going, well, really, Chris, that's something you've been working on? You're not getting on very well. And that's a fair cop. That's an absolute fair cop. But these are things that I keep cycling back round to or having to revisit and remind myself I'm working on. And so I think that's my little small print caveat. But hopefully, I'm hoping by sharing some of these thoughts that if there's any players out there who are looking for a bit of inspiration or a few ideas of their own as to some steps that they might want to take to work on their Dice Masters gameplay ability, then this will give them a few seeds, maybe plant a few seeds of things that they can look into. So without further ado, let's get into it and let's start taking a look at what's on my list. So first there, reading and using my opponent's globals. I am a bugger for not doing this very well. In fact, just reiterating what I was saying before, I'm still working on a lot of this stuff even today. There was a game I was having online the other night where my opponent had the Supreme Intelligence Global and it would have helped me out massively. So one of the things I'm trying to get better at, although I don't always succeed, is scanning the field and just kind of putting some more thought into reading and using my opponent's globals. Here's an example of one at the MOD PDM a couple of weeks ago, the Becky Lynch Global. Now, admittedly, I'd sort of anticipated that this one was going to be around, so even though I didn't have it on my own team, I had kind of already put some thought in. And I suppose that's one of the aspects of kind of getting better prepared to read and use your opponent's globals, is kind of that whole prepare for the worst but hope for the best kind of thing. So when you're planning your team and you've got a global on there that you decided not to use because you believe that your opponent can get more use out of it than you, however, if it is there, you've got a few thoughts and ideas as to how you can make good use of it too. You know, and Becky Lynch was an example at the MOD PDM. Or another great example, I've just mentioned this one, Supreme Intelligence. I won't repeat myself. And then here's, this is a very specific example, Resurrection. So I get so wrapped up in my own little kind of routine of how I'm planning on doing something that I get a bit too locked in and focused on my own prep global, and I forget to kind of pay attention to what's going on with the prep globals around. So if I've got an atlas on my team and I'm doing my rolls, I'm kind of like, oh, have I got a fist? Have I got a fist? And I'm looking at the table to see if I've got the fist. But the shield might do it. My opponent might have a resurrection. And I know that sounds really fundamental and basic, but sometimes in that kind of monomaniacal laser beam focus, especially when you've been practicing first 3 turn routines and stuff, it can be all too easy to kind of get a bit kind of locked into looking for a particular combination of energy type in your reserve pool that you're about to spend. So yeah, I'm trying to work really hard at reading and using my opponent's globals, but also putting some thought into anticipating what globals might be around and how might I make use of them if they do arrive, even if I'm not choosing to use them on my own team. Next on the list, figure out my first 3 turns. I've just alluded to it then. So one of the things that I've been working on for a long time, and I think I am getting a bit better at now, is kind of figuring out what my first 3 turn routine is. Long-standing players, and certainly successful players who've done well in championships and at competitive play level, will tell you that the first 3 turns, if you've got that figured out, that sets you up for success ongoing throughout the game. And so I've been trying to kind of get my head around how can I best set myself up for success by having a strong first 3 turns. Let me give you an example of one I'm kind of tinkering around at the minute. So I like this combo that's just come up on the screen here, the Jubilee Olympic Gymnast, who says while Jubilee is active, when you field a bolt character die, deal 1 damage to target opponent. And the Grell here, a 2-cost bolt that says when Grell is KO'd, you may draw 2 dice from your bag, prep 1 and place the other in your use pile. So the plan here, the little team I'm tinkering around with, is the idea that I get Jubilee out in the field nice and early, then buy up a load of Grells, and then using things like Nihilor Global, I'm going to KO those Grells, benefit from the ramp and churn that they provide me from their game text, but then also have a bolt character in prep ready to refield to do the ping again, and kill my opponent through the 1,000 cuts approach that I'm very well renowned for. But I've got to set myself for success there, and there's things that I need to be thinking about in those first 3 turns to make sure that that combo comes to life when I need it to come to life. So the first thing I was thinking about was, well, one of the things I can do is copy Jubilee. And I'm looking for a good solid 3-cost dice to buy in turn 1 or turn 2 to help me with my 3-turn kind of churn strategy. So I've popped Hope in the mix. I'm concerned about the fielding cost of Jubilee, and I'm concerned about the repeated fielding cost of the Grell on level 2 and 3. So I've got a nice 2-cost dice here as well to make in my early purchase, so that I can set myself up with 5 dice in my use pile in turn 2, and then a quick prep global, Atlas for example, to jump those across. You know, one of the other things I've been trying to do is to resist the urge to spend all my energy. So I might buy Sasha Banks turn 1 and leave an energy unused. I might then buy Hope Summers turn 2 and use the 4th dice as a fist. So there's kind of an energy going to waste there, but I think it's not going to waste because it's setting myself up for more success in those first 3 turns ongoing, you know. So it's just kind of thinking like that. And then finally, I'll be all set up and ready to start buying and churning my Jubilee through so that she doesn't cost me as much to field. I've got a bit of kind of ramp support with Sasha Banks. I've already started on my win condition because Hope's already round, who's copied Jubilee to deliver the damage. And I can then just buy Grells till the cows come home. So yeah, that's an example of just kind of a first 3-turn setup. I don't think I've articulated that very well, but hopefully you guys have got a sense of what I'm talking about. You know, that look for a good 2-cost, 3-cost character that you can buy. Use your prep globals well, or things like create food and water. Don't rush to the urge to buy up to the full value of the dice that you're rolling. It's okay to leave an energy going unused to, as Ben Scott said to me recently, to keep your bag sensible. Think about what are the dice that you want in your field in turn 3 that are going to set you up for success for the remainder of the game so that your mid-game's even stronger. Okay, practicing bad rolls. I am dreadful for this. So what I quite often have a habit of doing is coming up with a great kind of first 3 combo. Working on that point 2 there, figuring out my first 3 turns. I have this great turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 kind of combination of events that are going to really set me up for success and do something really amazing in turn 3. I get it all kind of really proper figured out in my head. I know exactly what I'm doing and how I'm going to go about doing it. And then when it comes to a roll in turn 2, I don't get what I need to set up the turn 3. I'm missing a particular energy type, or I've set things up in a bad way. So I need to figure out practicing bad rolls. Now, let me give you an example, a very real example. This happened to me recently at an online tournament that I competed in. So here I am. I'm playing a collector team. I'm playing against a guy called Carl, although it says Andy in the bottom corner of the screen there. I've done my second turn roll. Now, what I am looking for here, in an ideal world, is 3 masks so that I can get my collector bought. What I want to be able to do is Clayface Global in that Nobby on 2 fists, plough those 2 fists into my Kree Captain Global, spend a mask and another to buy the collector, and then use my final mask to prep it over so that I've got collector waiting in my prep area or in my bag to be rolled next turn. But I didn't. As you can see, I rolled a bolt. And now what have we got? We've got, well, I think the total time on this is going to be about 2 minutes of me just dithering and thinking and trying to re-strategize on the fly, and how am I going to go about doing this and what I'm going to do. And look at me, I'm pointing at it and I'm speaking to my opponent Carl there going, oh, this bolt's a thorn in my side, oh, that's not what I wanted, and I've got no idea how I'm going to proceed right now. Now, as a little side note, thinking about kind of first 3-turn setting yourself up for success from the previous point, Villainous Pat should go really. I should have Resurrection on, so I'm not looking to use so much of the same energy. Although it could be argued, I suppose, the chances of rolling, I don't know, I'm not a probability guy. But here we go, look, so I'm still going. What am I going to do? I'm dithering, I'm strategizing how I'm going to get back round on the fly here. I've got no idea, in essence, what I'm going to do. What am I going to do with this bolt? Look at me, fingering it. What am I going to do with this bolt? And I'm moving dice around a little bit. And then finally, there we go, a decision is made. A decision is made. I'm going to buy Danger Room. I think now I'm going to try and get a dice out of prep. I can't remember the game, but you get the idea. Oh, I'm having a little peek. Oh, what's he got that might help me? Oh, he's got an Atlas. Oh, he's got an Atlas. I've just realised he's got an Atlas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a Atlas, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, you get the idea. And the total time on this little clip that's playing, I think, is just short of 2 minutes. 2 minutes of gameplay time in my second turn where I'm dithering and fannying about because I've got no idea how to deal with that bad roll. So there you go. There's an example of this idea of practicing my bad rolls. What am I going to do? There's no such thing as a bad roll. I should have contingencies, and I've underprepared. And even with all my years of experience of playing with that collector teams or some variation of that collector team, I've not set myself up for success. So there's point number 3. Number 4, don't sweat the small stuff. Another thing I used to be a bugger for, and I am getting much, much better at this right now. So here's an example. Bishop. I'll explain why. So I quite often put Bishop, or did used to put Bishop on my team, because I'm a control player and I like to be able to control direct damage coming my way. And so Bishop was one of my go-tos for that. He's a 5 cost, so he's a big investment to put that control in place. But what always used to happen, and still does to me sometimes, is I'd see a little bit of direct damage going on the other side of the table, get into this kind of panicky thing, and these little chips coming down the field at me, and I'd rush to buy my Bishop. I'd make that 5 cost investment really, really early, and then realise later on in the game that I've not put any investment into my own win conditions. So I may have now controlled what's going on with my opponent, but all they've got to do is get my Bishop out of the way. They've got their wheels in motion. They've just got to clear the path. I, on the other hand, have spent all this time filling the path up with barriers, but I've got nothing of my own to throw back down the road. What a weird analogy. Anyway, you get the idea. So that's just a great example of that kind of don't sweat the small stuff. And it kind of ties into this first, figuring out your first 3 turns as well, and into your practicing your bad rolls. So getting myself set up so that I've got something going on, that my own wheels are in motion somehow. So that then when I do have to make a detour to make a purchase, and especially a big investment purchase like Bishop, or another great example is the Wonder Woman that prevents globals from being used, that it doesn't feel as much of a painful detour. So I either need to improve the ramp that I'm getting and just kind of, right, I'll set up ramp and not sweat this small stuff. You can ping me a little bit right now, but I know when this ramp hits, I'm going to have the spending power to buy anything I want. And then also set up my own wheels in motion. So get a few bits towards my own win condition, prepare myself for success, and then take the detour, and maybe not sort of sweat out these little pings that are coming at me, or feel suddenly so panicked and threatened by a few of the early doors hits that I take. Seasoned players will often say, life is a resource. I think that was a quote that came from the reserve pool back in the day. Again, Ben Scott, just reviewing, he did a commentary on one of my gameplay videos the other day. He said, oh, Alex is below 10. That's the crunch point now. And so, there's room to breathe. Don't sweat that small stuff. Get your own ducks in a row, and then start trying to mess with your opponent's ducks. This video is full of the most random analogies. I can only apologise. I suppose that's what happens when I don't use a script, and I just try and authentically freestyle it. That's all I got, an apology for my random analogies. But you get the idea, hopefully. And there's many examples of that. If you look through my old tournament reports, you'll see me writing all the time, I bought my Scarlet Witch, I bought my Madam Mask, I bought my Wonder Woman, I bought my Bishop. And I'm like, what? What are you doing all the time? Buying that in turn 3. You may have locked your opponent out, but you are doing nothing yourself. And so I'm really trying to work on that and set myself up for more success in that way. Am I succeeding? Not necessarily. I'm still a very tentative and anxious player, and I like to go defensive before offensive. I don't have that aggressive streak, but it's certainly something I'm working on. Okay, last on the list then, let's have a look. Improve my cost and energy spread. I've alluded to this actually when I was talking about the collector before. So don't worry necessarily about the specific pictures that are on the screen now. I just picked a kind of a bolt, a shield, a fist and a mask that are different costs. But this is a piece of advice. I forget who said it to me, but a little while ago someone said you've got to think about your kind of how your purchasing works and what your cost and energy distribution is across your team. And we were talking about building a team. They said, oh, I could really do with a 3 cost. I'm like, well, why is there a 3 cost that suits the team? But what they were actually referring to is the fact that they're thinking about their purchasing power as the game goes on. Certainly the first 3 turns, but then where's energy going into? And there's other elements to this as well. So I talked about Villainous Pact. I'll revisit that. I put Villainous Pact all the time on that collector team that I build. In my mind, I'm always thinking, well, it's a nice, cheeky little bonus win condition that's a backup if I ever need it. I've got that Kree captain on there. He can get really big with lots of villains in the field, so I'm thinking of it as a plan B. But that bad roll first 3 turn thing that I demonstrated before is affected by the fact that I need 3 masks and might be helped if I kind of spread the energy around a little bit, so I'm not looking for masks to make purchases and use 2 globals in the same turn, for example, or thinking about that kind of growing purchase. So have I got the right kind of energy and purchase cost for the ramp solution so that I can get up to the bigger cost, and are my low cost dice, if I need to load up on a particular energy type, are my low cost dice the right type of energy type to set me up for success? So if I'm planning on doing a lot of static fielding in a game, have I got a low cost mask that's going to help me get my energy spread right and help me have the masks available to plow into that global? Or another great example, if I'm planning on doing some pingity ping ping with a magic missile, have I got a low cost bolt that I can feed into it? So again, I don't know if I'm articulating myself particularly well on this video today, but hopefully a few of you got the idea. What I'm really trying to think about is, how is my purchase distribution looking across the team? What energy types am I using for what things? And how does that marry up to the globals? And I set myself up for a fail by trying to just have enough shields for everything and I only roll 1 shield, and then I'm back to the practice bad roll situation again, So they all kind of blend in a way, I suppose, but these are all things that I'm working on very much to try and improve my Dice Masters game. So there you go, folks. I'm going to wrap it up there. I don't like to make these videos too long. There's 5 things that I, the true Mr. 6, have been working on and am still working on to try and become a better Dice Masters player. Have I cracked it? No, not necessarily, but I'm still going to carry on ploughing that field, and hopefully for some of you out there who are looking for some ideas of your own, that's give you a little bit of inspiration. Alright folks, thanks for watching. Give us a like and subscribe and all that merry jazz. Check out ritroller6.com, check out the Ministry of Dice podcast, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye now.